Once abundant throughout Africa and Asia, the white and black rhino are now being poached toward the brink of extinction. This crisis is most acute in my home country, South Africa, which is home to 3/4 of all the world's rhino. In 2014 alone, we lost over 1,200 of these animals brutally to poaching. That is 3 rhino every single day. And whilst law enforcement is critical in deterring poachers, a real problem is that many of these incidents can be linked to information leaking from local communities. So part of the solution, in addition to enhancing conventional layers of protection like anti-poaching units and monitoring on the ground, is through community-based education programs, especially ones that develop long-term community benefits and buy-in. And so we propose to make permanent a pilot program already on the ground in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. This program is called Learning from Wildlife, and it is an educational program for young South Africans from disadvantaged communities focused specifically on wildlife conservation. Now, we know from the pilot program that many of the children from these local communities are completely disconnected from the intrinsic and the instrumental value of the wildlife that surrounds them. As you can see here, 90% of the children surveyed from the most recent program had never visited a wildlife reserve, and we intend to change that and to make learning from wildlife a permanent fixture in the curriculum. Now, this program actually has 2 parts. One is a 1-day immersion program called the Rhino Awareness Program, where in the morning we use soccer as a teaching medium for wildlife conservation, and in the afternoon we discuss how that is applied in the real world to rhino poaching. The second component is actually a much longer, more in-depth awareness program. It's an educational component that lasts 6 weeks, where we also use soccer, but these children come in and have more extensive immersion experiences in the game reserves that include wildlife drives and, where possible, actually working with animals. Poaching is a serious and complex task for a child to understand. And we think this program is innovative because by using a sport, namely soccer, we're able to engage these children in a physical activity that links directly with a conservation issue, namely rhino poaching. We know this works. Again, going back to some data from the most recent study, those children who listed wildlife as one of their top 5 concerns, that number raised from 50% to almost 90% as a result of the Learning from Wildlife program. So our expected outcome is really simple. We want to have a more knowledgeable, more engaged, and more empowered generation of South Africans that are ready to take control of their environmental future. We need to build real capacity for natural resource management, and I believe the gateway to do this is through access to environmental education. So how do we measure this? This program will be a success if we are able to establish permanent funding and extend this program to another 10 schools in the region. That would be 500 children going through the 6 weeks Learning from Wildlife program. We will continue to conduct program surveys, appreciative inquiry sessions, soccer skills tests on the ground. These are streamlined and measurable, and they are in place. But we also want to determine how many of those children go through to more extended, more detailed studies. For example, they may go on wildlife walks where they sort of consolidate their learning and experiences and may graduate from what we call the Rhino Ambassador program. We have funding through a local bank through 2016, although this is not guaranteed. And this program has been proven to be successful. It provides sound educational foundations for these children that betters their lives, it betters their communities, and their natural environment. Our ask is we seek $50,000 to make Learning from Wildlife a permanent fixture in the curriculum. It is a joint initiative between Texas Christian University and the Amakola Foundation and Coaching for Conservation. We also seek an additional $40,000 to buy a van because a large part of the cost involves transporting students in and out of the game reserves. Thank you for investing in the wildlife of South Africa and in the youth of South Africa. Those 2 things must go hand in hand if this crisis is going to be solved.